would be easy. So watch. Remember when we were looking at 4 equal parts? We took 100, we divided it into 4 equal parts and said that 25 would be in each, right? To make 4 equal parts, 8 equal parts, what do you need to do? If I said, okay, take these 4 equal parts and turn it into 8 equal parts, what would you do, Clark? What would I do? If I needed to make 4 into 8, what would you do with the 4 parts? Think about this as pie. I have 4 equal pieces of pie and I need 8. What am I going to do? Hannah?
You would split each square in half.
You would cut it in half, right? So watch as I cut it in half. I need your attention, please. So I'm going to take this piece of pie and I'm going to split it in half. And I'm going to take this piece of pie and I'm going to split it in half. And I'm going to take this piece of pie and split it in half. And this piece of pie and split it in half. Do I have 8 equal parts?
Yes.
Now, I need to figure out how many squares is in each eighth. So if I had 25 in this whole thing and I split 25 in half, how many is going to be in each of these? If I have, this is a fourth, this whole thing is a fourth, and we know that this whole thing, 1/4, is equal to 25. If I cut it in half, and this is an 8, what's half of 25? If I divide 25 by 2, Kaden?
12 and 1/2.
12 and a half. So 1/8 is equal to 12.5%. Now, I know what 1/8 is. If I need to figure out what 2/8 is, I would just add 1/8 and 1/8. If 1/8 is 12 and a half, and another 8 is 12 and a half, what's 12 and a half and 12 and a half equal to? Jillian?
13.
12 and a half plus 12 and a half.
25.
25. So, didn't we just find an equivalent? How many eighths is equal to a fourth? Caitlin? 2 eighths. So what we're saying is 2 eighths is equal to 1/4, which is equal to 25%. So next to a fourth on your chart, you should have 2 eighths is equivalent to that. 2 eighths is equal to 1/4, which is equal to 25%. So if you're looking at our whiteboard chart, I have 1/4, which is equal to 25 out of 100, which is equal to 25%, which is also equal to 2 eighths. So if I know that an eighth is 12.5%, I'm going to try and find 3/8 now. Here's an eighth. Here's an eighth. Now I'm going to add another 8. If I know that an eighth is 12.5%, 12.5 plus 12.5 plus 12.5 is going to give me what? What is 3/8 going to be equal to? Can't I just add all 3 of these up? Don't we know what 1/8 and 1/8 is? Didn't we say that that was 25? So can't we add 25% plus 12.5%? And what's that give us, Ben? 37.5%. Now, you're okay. We're going to keep practicing. Here's an 8. Okay, look up here. Here's an 8. Do you agree that an 8 is equal to 12.5%? Yeah, there's 12.5 squares shaded. And if I add another 8, don't I have 2 8s shaded now? Okay. And an eighth would be 25 total squares are shaded right here, right? If I add 12 and a half more squares to this, what I'm saying is, let's add 25 plus 12 and a half. And if I add 25 and 12, that's 37. Plus half is 37 and a half, right? If I counted up every single one of those squares in 3/8, let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whoops, that's a half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and a half. Plus another 12 and a half, plus another 12 and a half gives me 37 and a half. Now this is the cool part. We found 1/8, we found 2/8, we found 3/8. What's next? 4/8. We gotta find 4/8. So I'm going to shade another one of my eighths.
That's a half.
An eighth is equal to how much? 12 and a half. How much have I shaded so far? I've shaded half of my grid, right? So what I'm saying is 4/8 is equal to half of my grid. And how many squares are in half of my grid? How many squares are in half of my grid? There's 100 in the whole thing. So how many's in half of it? Clark? 50. So what I'm saying is 4/8 is equal to 1/2, which is equal to 50 out of 100. And the percentage that's shaded? What's the percent that's shaded? If the whole thing is 100 and I've shaded half of it, I've shaded 50%. So let's look at our chart. We've got a few different equivalent fractions to look at. We said 1/2 was equal to 2/4. How many eighths are equal to half of this chart? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4/8. So 4/8 is also equal to 50%. So on your chart of half, you should have 1/2 is equal to 2/4, which is equal to 4/8.
This is actually easy.
Yes, it is.
I got my brain back last year.
Can you clear the ink for me, please? So, we found 1/4, or 1/8. We found 2/8. We found 3/8. We found 4/8. What's next? 5/8. So, remember, we have eighths. 8 equal parts. Don't we know what the top half is?
Yeah. Yes.
The top half is 50%,
And we know the bottom half is
right?
I think the top's too big.
That's 50%. We need to add another eighth to find 5/8, because this is 4/8 up here.
Alright, and I think we need
If I add another eighth, which is here, how much is in an eighth again? Ernie? There's 12 and a half here. So if we're adding 4/8 plus 1/8 to equal 5/8, how are we going to find out what 5/8 is? What, Tim?
62.
And a half. Because this is 50, and if I add another 8, that would be 62 and a half. So what we're saying is 5/8 is equal to 62.5%, or how many equal squares? There's 50 squares here and 12 and a half squares here. So how many squares? How many squares are shaded total right now? Caden? 62.5 out of 100. So for 5/8, 5/8, you should have it equal to 62.5%, which is equal to 62.5 out of 100 on your chart. Some of you are following along on the chart, and some of you have nothing. So we found 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. Now we got to find 6/8, right? This should be easy. If I know that 5/8 is 62.5%, we're going to add another 8, which is 12%, right? Can I ask a question? Do you guys know what this right here, do you know what percentage this square is right here? Didn't we say that this was 25, right? And isn't this 50? So can't we add 50 and 25 to find 6/8? What is 50 and 25? Gage? 75. So we've got an equivalent. We're saying 6/8 is equal to 75%, which is equal to 75 of the squares out of 100. And don't we have another equivalent? How many fourths is that? 1, 2, 3/4, right? So for our chart, what we're saying is 3/4 is equal to 75%, which is equal to 75 out of 100, which is equal to how many eighths? 6/8. What's next? We have 6/8. Now we have 7/8. Well, right now we know that this is 75%, right? If I add another 8, what am I going to add together to find 7/8? How am I going to find 7/8? Add another 12. So if I know that this is 50 and this is 25, this whole thing's 75, plus 12.5 would give me what for 7/8? 7/8 would be 87.5 out of 100, which is equal to 87.5%. I have 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and what's last? 8/8. 8/8 means the whole thing is shaded, right? I have 8 out of 8 parts shaded, and that is equal to what percent? 100 out of 100, or 100%, or a whole. So what we're saying is, for the whole, we have a whole which is equal to 4/4, which is equal to how many eighths? 8/8. Which is equal to what percent? The whole thing is shaded, so we have 100% shaded. Stop recording, please.
More than 50.
Should be.
Let's do another one. That's fine.